What is all right? Gonna make sure this audio is coming through. Okay, here we go, guys. So, SmackDown was pretty damn good tonight, guys. I'll say that. This is exactly what I was waiting for. As soon as we were out of the whole Saudi program that we had to deal with throughout the beginning of throughout October, leading up to the beginning of November. But now we are officially on the road to Survivor Series, as we clearly saw tonight. And we got a lot of good shit to talk about, guys. I mean, we got more stuff with the Bloodline Saga, which obviously that's always nice to dive into whenever we talk about it. We get to talk about what's going on with Cody Rhodes next, which obviously involves the angle that we saw with KO and Randy that we'll touch on a little bit later. We also have some things to talk about when it comes to Bayley and Candice. We got the tag team match between Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax. Got a lot of tag team action tonight with DIY versus Pretty Deadly, Grayson Waller effect with Motor City Machine Guns. I do have some things to say about that, especially when it comes to a certain direction with Mr. Tommaso Ciampa himself. And then we also have the mid-card belt. Finally announced that we've been preaching forever on this channel, that me and Watkins, because Vash is not here tonight, he's looking for his keys. He doesn't really know where they are, so he can't get inside of his house. So me and Watkins pretty much taking over tonight, but that's the rundown. This is going to be a very fun show, I can already tell, just based off of everything we got tonight. A lot of people seem to have the same mindset when it comes to SmackDown tonight, that it was an excellent show, which is definitely needed because you're building to one of the very last pay-per-views that we have when it comes to closing off the year. Like, I don't really count Saturday Night Main Event. It is a special event, but if you want to talk about PLE standards, Survivor Series is pretty much the icing of the cake that officially builds to the WrestleMania season. But if you want to throw it in there, I guess you can. But let's get into this, guys.
With anime in our souls and thoughts of wrestling out of control, we tonight are a duo of weebs who love the entertainment of professional wrestling. Isn't that right, Sydney? Don't you love it too? You're a good girl as well. So why don't you guys join us as we go through the wrestling events of the evening, give our thoughts and predictions on what's to come, and provide an experience inclusive to all you nerds out there. So grab your steel chair, yell from the table, and get put through an experience unlike any other. We are brought to you by Animal Studio, and this is the Weebs of the Ring podcast. As you heard, Drop let us know the knowledge. He told us that Vash is not here. Unfortunately, again, I don't know how you keep losing your keys like that, man. Like, you gotta get like a key ring or something, like maybe one of those belt holders for it. Like, I don't know, man. How does he keep losing them, Drop? Like,
I don't know, but I will say this though. Whenever he does lose his keys, we always have like these action-packed shows. So I'll just say this straight off the bat, even if you're watching this, Vash, lose those keys more often. Like, have somebody purposely hide those keys, because whenever you're not on the show, we always have a lot of stuff to dive into. And then when you're here, there really isn't all that much to talk about. So keep losing those keys.
yeah. Look, I'll get a hold of wifey so that way she just, hides them from you. Because, hey, you know what? She'll probably be on board with it too. That just means, hey, I get to spend more time with hubby. But we don't have enough time for that, Drop. We have a lot to dive in and talk about. This was probably, I'll go on record right now saying this might be SmackDown of the year this year. Like,
very great show tonight. Like,
yeah,
I'm honestly blown away just based off of what we got. It's just crazy to think, and we even said this as well. As soon as we got out of Saudi, you were gonna feel a whole different program. As soon as we got back to the States, and clearly we saw that tonight.
Yeah, like the trip back must have done wonders going through the UK like that. So, which good on them too. Like, kind of easing the whole jet lag kind of thing from a big trip like that. So. You could kind of tell everybody felt refreshed and just ready to move on from Saudi Arabia and all that stuff. And yes, Vash, you are going to keep losing them.
Yeah.
Look, it's not your fault. Well, Don't worry about it. They just keep running away from you. But let's go ahead and just kind of dive into the show. We have a couple headline announcements tonight. The first of many being the women's United States title is announced. We finally got our wish for a women's mid-card title. I'm just blown away. Like I was hoping for this. I was praying for this. I prayed for this and it happened. So thank you, Drew, for praying for this as well. But like I think what's gotten me excited is, and we were talking about this before we went live, the possibility that this is actually going to be a floating championship between Raw and SmackDown, which just that opens up the field tremendously with who could win this.
Oh yeah.
And design wise too. I mean, yeah, it's simple. It's just a white strap on the United States title, which fine. You've been doing that with the WWE and world titles and all that, but it looks good and it feels good to just finally have something more for the women to be fighting for.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like I said earlier in the little rundown, this is something that we've been preaching about forever on this show. Not only us, but obviously a lot of other people that watch the product as well. But especially when it comes to our show, which I know has been a main focus ever since the early stages of the birth of Weebs of the Ring. We've always been saying, you got to give a mid-card title to the ladies. You got to give a mid-card title to the ladies because there's a lot of talent on there that deserve the opportunity to fight for a title like that. And I'm happy it was announced. Like Watkins says, it is identical to the United States Championship. Only difference is the white strap, which I honestly prefer because it just makes the title stand out more when it comes to the white strap. So I have nothing against it when it comes to that. But only nitpicks I would say, which I understand why people would have some nitpicks, would have to be, having its own unique design to stand out, maybe a different name along the lines of that. But the main thing that we really need to focus on, of course, is it's an actual thing now. And that's what matters the most, is that it's an actual thing. And you probably would think that this has probably been a thought in their head for a while now. The North American Women's title in NXT was probably something to test the waters, to see how the fans would react to it. Obviously, it got a positive reaction, and they decided to take that and bring it to the main roster. And one of the things that I'm honestly hoping for this is that it stays one title. I know we had some details on it today saying it's going to be, I believe Nick Aldis said that Raw superstars and SmackDown superstars, when it comes to the women, are eligible to fight for this title. So I'm hoping it's one title. And the only reason why I say that, and it's not against the girls having more titles, because obviously we've been pushing for this, and I really do applaud you guys on Tuesday for chanting women's wrestling during the 10 women's tag match, because that made me really happy just to hear that chant. But just building on to what I just said, that's something that we've been wanting to see. And the main reason why I just want it to be one title is because I don't want it to feel oversaturated, because you have the two main belts for the women's on both shows, which I get it. It makes sense. Okay. No issues with that. You got the tag titles, which they're trying to do something with it. And so we have that. So you got 1, 2, and 3. Now we have this mid-card belt for the ladies that floats between brands, at least from what we know of so far. So we're going to have to see exactly how that progresses once we, dive a little bit more into it, which I was assuming to get more details on Monday and next Friday, and obviously news reports that comes out from, different news outlets and stuff like that. But I just don't want another title like a women's intercontinental championship on Monday, because then it feels like, okay, why do we have 2 mid-card titles? Why can't there just be one? Because at least, just like the women's tag belts, you could have it float between brands, and you could build the mid-card. So my whole idea process behind this, which I spoke of on the channel before, but since it's finally revealed, my whole thought process behind this is obviously, of course, give more opportunities to the girls that need them. And then the second thing, I would also use this title to elevate girls in the mid-card to prep them if Triple H wants to send them down that direction. But I would also use this mid-card title to prep them to eventually, let's say hypothetically, they drop it. Maybe it elevates them to the main event scene. Something along the lines of that, which I know is a common theme because when it comes to the mid-card belts for the guys, you know, you got Braun Breaker, for example, has the IC title. Probably going to hold on to it for a little bit until he loses it. And obviously, you would expect after that, he's going to be moved to the main event scene. I mean, Gunther is a good example. Gunther, IC title started with that, moved to the main event scene. That's something I would do with the mid-card belt, just to throw something out there. Because there's a lot of people, like, I'll just throw this out here, and I'll ask Watkins who he personally feels like he would like to see this. But personally, people that I would like to see this, that's been putting a lot of work. I would say Michin deserves it. I would say Chelsea Green deserves it. Those are my top two that I'm really putting out there that deserve a title like this. Because they've been busting their ass off and they've been doing a lot of good things lately, so I wouldn't mind that. And I also want some good stories to be told with this as well. Like, I want this to be a way where it's like, okay, let's see how creative we can get with this. We got a new belt. Let's see what new stories can be told. Because we all love watching movies. We all love watching TV shows. I want to see exactly how they make this title feel special because it's something we wanted for so long. And it would be good to see it being... It would be good to see it being put on display for a lot of good reasons.
Yeah, and like just like what you said, a mid-card title should be elevating people and all that. And like the names you mentioned, I mean, Michin, she kind of, I don't want to say she spoiled it, but like she had a tweet earlier, like after it was announced, oh, Nick Aldis has this big announcement later on. Like she had quote retweeted it with like eyes, and that kind of like. That got me even more excited because I'm like, oh shit, is this actually going to be the night? Is this going to be the time that we finally get that announcement for the mid-card title? And then like, I'm glad you mentioned Chelsea Green too, because I think she deserves something to just kind of reward her for like all the work that she's put in this year alone. I mean, going to the Money in the Bank match alone, I mean, just the bump she took from that thing. She should have won something for taking that something like that. But like, I mean, even on the Raw side too. I mean, the one that comes into mind is Zelina Vega. I mean, she's getting like this big pushback from social media. Like she's been trending a lot for like the past like almost 100+ days. It's always been on trending. So, I mean, she deserves something like that. Plus, she's put in some good work, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we had our little discussion about her and Ivy Nile on Monday, but you can't really put too much blame on them for what they put on. Because, again, like, sometimes you have an off day, you know? That's fine. That's whatever. But, like, I can see Ivy Nile being in the mix, but I don't really see her being a top contender for it.
Yeah.
Some other names, I guess. I mean, Shayna Baszler is on that roster.
Yeah.
Like I will always be one to push Shayna Baszler.
I mean, hey,
same Kairi Sane.
Yeah.
Like,
especially
have
if you
damage
want
control.
Especially if you want to like elevate them again to like feel important. Not saying that they aren't now, but for the people watching in the audience, it's different from us because we look at it from a different perspective than people who buy tickets to see the shows just to have a good time. But at least if you gave it to Shayna Baszler, like Watkins said, or Kairi Sane, both great talents, but if you give them that title, people look at it, be like, okay, and then they start making it feel special because then you get time added to the matches. You actually see them fighting hard for it. You have some sort of compelling story or whatever sort of direction that keeps the audience locked onto the TV screen. It would be a good way to showcase them. And I mean, I'm all for Shayna Baszler, especially if you want to go along the lines I said earlier, where you use that title to bring her back to where she was all those years ago. Like we will talk about for a specific individual that I mentioned in the intro that I am super stoked to talk about. Hopefully you head down that direction, Triple H. But I'm all for that. I mean, I love women's wrestling. I always look forward to it. I don't get off the couch and go and do something else if a match goes on. Like I get really invested in those sort of things because I happen to be big fans of a lot of these girls. I mean, if I had to name like 3 girls that I am super excited to see once they eventually come on the main roster. I mean, outside of what we have right now, you know, Roxanne Perez has a lot of potential. Julia, Stephanie Vaquer, they have a lot to offer. Zarya, I mean, just seeing more opportunities for women out there just makes me super
Mhm.
happy.
Oh, same here. Especially with like, I mean, again, you were naming some women from NXT, but like those are the ones that would be going for this title when they get up to the
Oh
main
yeah,
roster. Like, again, it's more opportunities and it's a bigger showcase as well for the women to fight for this title. And I hope that it lands on pay per view a lot more than some other
oh
titles do,
definitely,
like certain
definitely.
tag titles and all that.
Yeah, it definitely needs to be on pay per view too. Like, I don't want it to be
Yeah.
defended on like a random Raw, a random SmackDown every week. Like, you want to
Hmm.
make those belts feel special, especially since you have that important announcement with Nick Aldis saying,
Yeah.
preaching about women's wrestling and where we were back then, where we are now. I mean, just that statement alone, they deserve to be put on a PLE.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I get it too, oh, not every PLE, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But like at least, these go home shows, at least the go home Raws have been bigger shows, or at least bigger feeling shows. So I will at least commend WWE for that, for
Yeah.
making the weekly product a little
Yeah.
better. So like, eventually down the line, if it's main eventing like a SmackDown before Money in the Bank or something, that's cool too. Because hey,
Mm,
as long as you're making the
yeah.
story leading up to that something compelling and something like I want to see be fought for and be fought against and all that, like, yeah, give it to me. Like, I'll be fine with that. Like,
Oh yeah.
I'm a very easy person to please, as long as something just makes sense and I can, or even if it doesn't at the time, but I like have the puzzle pieces to like put it together, like just make it entertaining, I guess, is the end all be all of it all. But yeah, we had named a few women to kind of would probably be in the pool for this title and all
Yeah.
that. I don't think they really said what they're gonna do. They just
Yeah.
said that it's gonna be open and that the women are gonna have to earn it. So like, do you see a tournament happening, or like I had mentioned this too in our DMs, the possibility, because like we don't have like a women's war games match set up yet,
Yeah.
so it could always be a thing where it's just like, okay, well, if especially now if they're opening it up to Raw, that could be your Team Raw versus Team SmackDown thing, because like not only because we've seen some building tension between like Aldis and Pierce in different times. So like that you could kind of kill two birds with one stone, being like, okay, well, Team Raw is gonna earn the opportunity to be the first ones to make history, or like, oh, Team SmackDown's gonna do it. Like there's another layer too you can add on with that too, where like back in the past when we had like Raw versus SmackDown, it was only like, oh, well, what are the stakes for this match? Bragging rights.
Yeah.
More? Is there more to that? No, no, just you're better than them. I mean, that don't get too far. I mean, Royal Rumble's like 2 months away. No, 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 don't worry about that. You don't worry about the numbers and all that. Like, at least it will give them something to do. But like, what do you think they're gonna do to kind of crown this new champion?
So like I wouldn't be against what you said because it makes sense where like you have the both teams, whoever team is the victors, you could have like a fatal four-way, fatal five-way,
Hmm.
whatever direction they decide to do for war games, because I mentioned like five with the bloodline, which we'll talk about next. So we're not really sure
Yeah.
exactly if five was just for that segment alone, just to put something out there just for what was added to that current segment. But
Hmm.
hypothetically, you're going off okay, what team wins? Okay, obviously Raw wins, and then you have the ladies there compete for in a fatal four-way match, and whoever wins it. But there's a part of me that could see it being one of those things that they have done in the past, where it's like
Hmm.
they might have a tournament on Raw and SmackDown, and then it'll come down to a SmackDown girl and a Raw girl, and then whoever comes on
Yeah.
top of that ends up getting the belt, and then I honestly like now that I think about that, if they
Hmm.
do a okay Raw tournament and SmackDown tournament, and then it does come down to a Raw or SmackDown girl, I think that kind of does give us a confirmation if they do go down that direction that it will be cross brand. So
Yeah.
if they do that, then I'm all for it just for that idea alone. But
Mhm.
I'll throw it out there. I could definitely see like definitely like person A against person B sort of thing. Um
Mhm.
I mainly just want it for people that don't really get much spotlight, because Bayley's, to me, you
Yeah.
could throw her in there, of course, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was put in there, because I absolutely
Yeah.
love Bayley. I loved Bayley for years. I mean, when I first got introduced to Bayley, she was Hugger Bayley, and I just
Yeah.
loved that version of Bayley. I still do. But there's also a part of me that kind of want to see the girls that are like a little lower down part of
Mhm.
it.
Well, like, that's the thing, like, adding the people that are more established, adds prestige to the
Oh yeah,
title
that
that
is
they're
true.
fighting
Yeah.
for. So, like, when you have your Baileys involved in there,
Yeah.
that's when, like, it's a mind blow when people, like, I mean, take the name I'm about to say with this, but, like, that gives, like, the Lyra Valkyrias the chance to, like, not only shine, but possibly beat them with an
Oh yeah.
upset
Oh, yeah, that's true.
win and all
Actually, yeah,
that.
go.
So it's like,
Actually, that makes sense. Yeah, I would probably then. Yeah, just go with that. It completely
yeah.
forgot about that, but I'll
Yeah,
say
but even if Bailey won though, like I wouldn't be
no,
opposed to it, but at the
no,
same time, like yeah,
I wouldn't either. But at the same time, like we spoke about before, with like a Chelsea
hmm
Green or Meechin, somebody that you could see working with that title for a little bit, and then hypothetically, if they want to
yeah,
go down the road and move them up from mid card to main event level, if they want to
hmm
utilize that title in that way to build up their some like main event girls. Um,
yeah,
I would personally want that. I wouldn't be opposed that Bayley does get it, but
yeah,
at the same time, it's like I kind of want it to be a Mia Chin or a Chelsea Green, somebody along the lines of
exactly.
that, to get an opportunity at it.
hmm Yeah, to kind of not only elevate
Yeah,
themselves, but elevate the title, all that stuff.
yeah.
So
Like you could put them in
okay,
the tournament,
well,
like you said, and if you want to
hmm
use them as a way to be like, okay, Lyra beat Bayley, or
yeah,
Candice LeRae eventually gets her win back over Bayley, something along the lines of that,
please,
then you could use it as a way, like you said, to make it feel special because you got a big name in there.
yeah. So we'll have to see how they plan on doing a tournament or what they plan on doing with that. So again, we'll just I guess we'll have to wait till Raw. I'm assuming Pierce will
Yeah,
have some words to
yeah.
say on Raw about it. Maybe he'll have that announcement on Raw. So
Mm.
stay tuned for Monday night when we find that out.
Oh yeah.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and move right along down this windy road going to War Games. We got the Bloodline saga to talk about, and we had some character work going on tonight.
Oh
We
yeah.
had two big segments that dealt with the Bloodline. The opening and closing segments. Which thank you. I like when we have like good segments that open and close the show like this. So we started the night with Roman coming out, addressing the fans. He's trying to get acknowledged, but like Jey Uso has this timing where anytime Roman's trying to get acknowledgement from the crowd, you just get ooh so like I kind of like that touch where like we're not acknowledging Roman or at least getting the chance to acknowledge him.
I
But
really, I
so we move right along. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say I like how they're still doing that though.
Oh, same here. Because again, like Jay deserves his flowers, and Roman should be in the middle of the ring, hearing how people are reacting to Jay. Like that just like it adds to his character to be like to finally come around and be like, all right, you know what? I truly acknowledge you, Jay. But as Jay comes out, he talks to Roman. He's just like, okay, look. I just need you to hear him out. And out comes Sami Zayn. And Sami gives a very heartfelt, very personal, very deep promo on Roman saying like I mean he really hammers in the feeling of it felt like old times when he was in the ring with Roman, the Usos and all that. And I mean he still says it was an accident,
Mm.
which it was an accident if you watch back on the tapes, but like this was a really good segment from Sami Zayn. Like we really don't deserve Sami on the microphone,
Yeah.
and he said he'll get back involved. He'll join back with the team if only Roman will apologize, but not to him, but to Jay. So I kind of want to throw this out at you here, Drop, because like there's a part of me that's sitting here thinking, okay, why is Sami Zayn getting involved? Like, you could use the argument, oh, Sami wants to help Jay. He's there for Jay to make sure Jay's fine,
Mm-hmm.
which, you get that. You can respect that. But, like, there is the question of, why should Sami really get involved? Like, it doesn't really bug it. Like, they haven't really done anything to him. He hasn't really, done anything to them either. So, like, there's really nothing at stake for Sami. But, like, why is Sami doing all of this? So, like, I want you to kind of answer that question, because I'm sure there are people that are out there wanting to know the answer to that.
I feel like he's just trying to look out for Jay, especially after everything that
Mhm.
happened, because he knew Jay's whole purpose of leaving. Because right after Sammy left, like, Jay was pretty much about to kick down the door and leave himself. But obviously, Sammy's been there when it came to the
Yeah.
abuse that Jay went through when it came to Roman, and you obviously saw signs of that tonight, especially in the beginning of the show. But I feel like it's just one of those things where he's really trying to look out for him, because he realized he's doing it for a reason, because obviously it's family at the end of the day, like Jay said. But he's
Mhm.
also trying to look out for him, because you look at how their relationship was before compared to now. They had some rough patches, but now they're like stronger than ever. So I feel like it's just one of those
Yeah.
things where it's like he really cares about him and he's just trying to look out for him as a friend. And, realistically, it makes sense
Mhm.
why he wants Roman to apologize to him. So I
Yeah.
understand why we're heading down that direction, because that's even something that we brought up before. We were like, okay, when it comes to the bloodline getting back together, obviously seeing the visual of them together is a great thing to see, and nobody's going to have any issues with that. But you also have to look at it from a point of view where it's like, okay, you got to look at what Roman has done, and you got to acknowledge
Mhm.
that. You can't just ignore that and pretend it never happened. Like, you obviously have to bring stuff like that up, which is why I appreciated that, Jay put his foot down tonight when he was talking to Roman, and he's like, if you act this way again,
Yeah.
I'm gonna up and leave. Like, I'm not gonna deal with this shit. And that's the exact same thing he said last Friday when he confronted Roman, and he was talking to Roman about, listen, I have certain guidelines I want you to follow. I want all of us to be treated
Mhm.
equal. I don't want to be bossed around, which you even saw examples of that in their Saudi match that they had with Solo and the rest of
Yeah.
them, where Roman is like, tag me in, let me do this, let me do that. So it's just good that we're looking at it from a realistic point of view. So I feel like that's why
Mhm.
Sammy's doing it, because it's not like Sammy's a stranger. Like, regardless if Roman's like, you're not blood, you don't belong here or not, he was still involved. And it wasn't like,
Yeah.
just a month or two. He was involved and he was a part of the story. I mean, I honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, Sammy was the main reason why that story got so much depth, because just
Mhm.
like Cody, Sammy, when it comes to emotional stories, he's very good at telling them. And Sammy just does this thing. I don't know how he does it, just like Cody does, like I mentioned. But they both do this thing where they just say things a certain way, and just the way that they showcase themselves in these certain segments, it just draws you in, and like the snap of the
Mhm.
fingers, just because of the emotion that we're putting into it, which is one of the things that you need when you're diving into a story like this that has been going on for years, emotion. And with Sami Zayn involved now, once again, it's just gonna dig things even deeper, because
Yeah.
now you're going to bring all this stuff up from the past. You're going to see the obstacles that they're going to have to overcome in order for them to get at that same level again. Because
Mhm.
even with we saw tonight with them, well, I'll save that talk once we get there. But basically, just saying, like, even what we saw tonight, it's obviously you're going to have to mend a couple more fences. It's not just, and that's it. I mean, there's obviously things you got to work out, because you could have said the exact same thing heading into the Saudi match. Oh, everything's fine.
Yeah.
They're putting up the ones towards that SmackDown show. No, you clearly saw what happened. They weren't looking eye to eye. They didn't really know how to cooperate with one another. So that's my answer when it comes to Sami, is that he's just he's an OG. He's been there since the very beginning. And it's just statements like that I'm happy that's referenced throughout these shows, because it's answers that we just ask as well.
Yeah, exactly. And especially I love how Sami kind of calls Roman out too. He's just like, "Look, I saw that smirk. I saw you tried the smirk. You're holding it back. You know you want this. You know you want all of this back." But Roman right now is just in his tsundere phase where he's just like, "No, I don't want anything to do with you stupid buckers," things like that. But it's just get over yourself, get over your ego, because I feel like that's why he's still snapping back, because it's that defense mechanism of just okay, I need to be like this or else things aren't gonna get done. But it's he's slowly gonna have to learn that he can't be like that. And that kind of happened tonight a little bit, because and I love how you brought up too, just it's not just automatically fixed by going like this. That's only a starting point. That is the beginning of the healing, of the process of coming back together. And I was at a loss for words. I mean, first of all, Sami Zayn went to the school of the Mick Foley school of being of what was it? What was the tweet I freaking said? It was Sami Zayn basically graduated from Mick Foley's school for ultimate baby faces and getting that ultimate sympathy, because that's the thing. Mick Foley had that charm, that special pizzazz to him, where it's just you believed in him and you wanted to follow him and just make sure that he was protected at all costs, no matter how many cages he jumped off of. And Sami Zayn's kind of like that too. He has that charm. It could be the beard, I don't know, but he like you said, he has a way with his words, the way he says things, the way he presents himself too. Just his body language alone tonight too. He was standing up to Roman at that point. That whole time, he wasn't trying to cower. You did see he was gonna back up a little bit, because Roman can snap at any moment and Superman punch you. Sami Zayn's been around that. I mean, hell, look. A couple years ago when he did that to Paul Heyman just randomly during the build to Brock Lesnar. I mean, Roman can snap quickly and easily, and he almost did a couple of times tonight. You know, I mean, he told Jay to go look for Sami. He told Jimmy to go look for his brother. He was all alone and all that. So
that's one of the things I really
there's
like.
A deep story here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things I really like, because that's something that Roman needs to learn. It can't just be okay, we need to get back together because this is the big battle and we have to align with one another in order to take down Solo and the rest of his bloodline. No, you got to put Roman in a position where he needs to understand that family matters, and family means more than gaining control of something or getting the Ulafala once again so you can put it around your neck and be the tribal chief. You got to put power out of the equation. You got to pretty much try to develop as a person and not be your old self again. And that's something that I really appreciate that they're doing at Roman, is that they're throwing all of these different kinds of things at him for a particular reason, so he could learn how to become a better person and how to treat Jay the way he wants to be treated and how to treat Jimmy the way he wants to be treated, Sami, etc. Especially with Jimmy too. You even saw him talking a certain way to Jimmy, like you said, which you would expect that out of a Jay or Sami. But Jimmy, looking at them, they seemed pretty tight for the most part when they aligned with each other back at Bad Blood. But now you even see him acting that way towards Jimmy, and then you see him come out on his own later on in the night. So it's I like how they're trying to teach Roman a lesson in a way to not be an asshole and not to just manipulate your family like you did before, because that's the whole reason why you guys broke apart to begin with, because of the emotional abuse that you put these people through and the physical abuse that you put these people through So
Yeah.
I like how they're doing that. And obviously, the big question comes up is Paul Heyman, because
Hmm.
you got to also figure out exactly how is he going to fit into all of this, because obviously you need him to show
Yeah.
up eventually. Maybe he's the one to really mend things together, which it makes sense coming from that
Hmm.
perspective, because he is the wise man at the end of the day. And when you take that title as being the wise man, it makes sense why you're the person that brings everybody together so they could cooperate with one
Yeah.
another, so they can be on the same page and do this and that. And I
And
definitely
also to
expect
kind of
that.
help and also to kind of help Roman be wise himself, to like
Yeah.
refocus and re-energize. Like, I mean, look back at to matches that Roman had. There was always moments where Roman would get sort of ticked off in a match, or like sort of aggravated or something, and like he would go out of the ring, and who was always there to talk to him and calm him down and whisper sweet nothings into his ear? It was Paul Heyman. And see, it's funny you bring up the whole thing with Paul Heyman, because like I still part of me feels like part of the end goal with like at least this part of the bloodline stuff is Roman learning to become his own wise man. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
c- man, part of me would really like, and I mean, this is
Well,
whole
I
like
want that too.
storytelling thing, and it's not like I don't want Paul Heyman on my television screen at all, but I could seriously see it be like, I need you back, Paul Heyman. Like, they have this big segment with like Heyman coming back, and like Heyman finally yeah, acknowledging Roman and all that stuff. But like a moment to be like, you don't need me, Roman. Like, yeah, I'm a wise man. You can always ask me for advice or what you should do, blah blah blah. But like, you really don't need me at this point,
Yeah.
And like, I'm I don't know how close or how far away we are to that moment, but it's a moment that I'm just anticipating it. And I feel like this is like this whole part of the bloodline story is part of that lesson, part of like at least the end of that arc, you know. Um but man, it's just like there's so much to just kind of dig into this. I mean, Roman's story being the tribal chief, like this whole bloodline thing, even like before all this too, like the stuff with the Shield, and even when he's in NXT, like I look forward as much almost on the same level as I do with One Piece ending, because I look forward to that ending so I can go back and like look at everything. But it's the same thing with like Roman's story right now, because like you look back on it, like the whole NXT startup, all right, cool, whatever, and then like coming up as the Shield and all the stuff that they did as a Shield, all the way to the breakup, all the way to like the suffer and succotash we had to deal with, and the booze, and the this is my yard now, dog food, all the way up to
Oh
like
yeah.
leaving from because of COVID, and then coming back as the tribal chief with Paul Heyman. Like, there's a whole big evolution going on here. It's just like it's something that really deserves like a good deep dive into, that maybe one day we'll do. I mean, who knows? Like, if we're able to do this long enough to talk about that, like, because that's the thing. This story has legs for years.
You might have to like break that down to like different parts within a video.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, it would have to be like early career slash Shield, and then like end it when the Shield, like whatever. That's besides the point. That's a whole other topic for a whole other date and time and century probably.
Mm.
So this all leads into the eventual undisputed tribal chief celebration, where Solo's finally gonna get that acknowledgement from Roman. Finally, he's gonna feel all big up and all that, and Roman does come out, but he agrees with the crowd and refuses to acknowledge Solo, and he actually ends up challenging him to a one-on-one match. So we're kind of teasing the one-on-one right now. We're not gonna get it yet, but
Yeah.
we're teasing it. When do you think we're gonna get that eventual one-on-one?
If I had to take a guess, because I do not want to see it at WrestleMania. No disrespect
No.
to like Roman and Solo, because I think they're doing great work right now. But
Hmm.
I can't really see it extending to that. If they want to
Yeah.
do something like that, maybe a Saturday night main event. Maybe you could
Yeah.
end it off there. Maybe that could be the rubber match where it's like Solo, obviously. Well, actually, you can't really say it's a rubber match because it wasn't really like singles matches. But
Yeah.
maybe they do it at Saturday night's main event. But there's also, yeah, I'll just say Saturday night main event if we do get it. But
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat because it's like they could stretch it to Royal Rumble, but it's like that's stretching it a bit,
yeah,
at least in my eyes.
and you never
You
know if they
know?
want to factor, like, not saying that people haven't competed in matches and entered the Royal Rumble afterwards, but you never know if they
Yeah.
want Roman to be put into the Royal Rumble, which I definitely expect him to be in it.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily know if he's going. That's like the whole toss up to me when it comes to Royal Rumble this year. Just to shed a few thoughts on that, since we're kind of looking to the future
Yeah.
where this one-on-one match could be. Um, I mean, both Rumbles matches are kind of unpredictable, especially with recent
They really are.
injuries. Because I had it all mapped up in my head
Mhm.
until all these injuries came up. But
Yeah.
I'll like I said before, I think Saturday night's main event would be the best bet, depending on exactly how Survivor Series ends to really lead up
Mhm.
to that.
Yeah, Survivor Series is gonna be that's gonna be one of those shows with like all these stories going on that's really gonna be telling where we're gonna be going in 2025. I mean, yeah, we still have the Saturday night's main event and that'll be what it is, but like I feel like Survivor Series is really gonna be that linchpin. Kind of almost in a way how last year's kind of was too, especially with Punk coming back. I mean, Punk coming back immediately told us how crazy 2024 was going to be, and look at us now in November. Like,
Yeah,
look at all the crazy stuff we've gotten
I
just this
definitely
year.
expect next year to be even crazier.
Oh my dude, the way things are going right now, it's insane. So yeah, obviously, Roman challenges Solo for a one-on-one, but Solo, he doesn't want this because he knows how it's gonna go. It's gonna be interference after interference, after ref down, after all that bull crap. So why not just go to war? I know you want to, Roman. Let's go to war. Find four people if they want to tag with you, and I've already got my four others. And
That
at
was
first you think, oh, Solo's just bad at math, so he can't count and all that. But no, he can count because apparently he's counting Sami Zayn in his team.
yeah,
And I I like how this is kind of played out right here because like there's no music at all. Sammy just comes out to the ramp and just stares down at the ring.
yeah.
Temu Bloodline
I'm
beat
glad
up
they did it
Roman,
like that because
and
you don't always need it. Sometimes the music
me
ruins
too.
shit.
It kind of does, like the way I was anticipating this segment going is like them intimidating Roman, especially with like the line Solo made of what was it exactly? It was something like, how can you be a tribal chief when you got no tribe? And I thought that was when Sammy's music was gonna hit, and he was just gonna stand next to Roman. That's where I thought it was gonna go.
Yeah,
But then like you get the swerve from Solo, like, oh, Sammy's on our side, but the double swerve, I guess. Sammy's not on your side as he kicks your flipping head in, Solo. Oh, I popped hard for that. Like I had a feeling it was gonna happen, but it's one of those things like even if you know it's gonna happen, it is still so freaking good when it happens.
yeah.
Mm, like it was so good. It was so good. But talk to me. How'd you feel about this stuff going on? Like especially right at this moment with Sammy just kicking the teeth into Solo
Oh, I
Sikoa.
loved it. I mean, it's something that
Like,
we all were anticipating to see. It got me super excited. Like I said earlier, just seeing them all together. Obviously, we're gonna have to see how things sorted out because it makes sense.
mhm,
Because and it makes even more sense because it's not like we're just waiting until a SmackDown to see it. This is gonna play into a Raw, SmackDown. So at least it's not one show per week that we gotta wait for more development.
yeah,
At least it's on. At least it's being added to both shows, which makes sense because as long as you're telling a story that makes sense, the cross branding is okay. So
exactly.
I'm super stoked about it. Honestly, I mean, just that image alone of all of them back together once again, very
Mhm.
iconic. Absolutely love it. My biggest
And also
question.
just oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, you can go and I'll I'll say what I
No,
want.
I was just gonna say. I mean, it's just it's so telling how Sammy's just the glue that holds them
Yeah.
together. I mean,
I,
it was so like I'm not gonna lie, my eyes just start welling a little bit seeing. I'm like, oh man, oh this is good, this is really good, because like especially when Sammy like started getting involved with the bloodline, like on the card he was very low on the card at the time, like he was getting squashed a lot, like and he was still having good matches here and there, but like he was kind of in that area that Bayley was in when she was about to leave Damage Control,
yeah.
where it's like, oh, she was losing a lot, not really doing much of note, just kind of there, like really low on the card, even though she was amazing and all that. Sami Zayn was the same, except it was kind of worse back then too. But like as soon as he inserted himself, he became like this. I mean, he was a gag character. He was basically, the comic relief of the group to kind of humanize the bloodline a bit. And just, again, him being the glue to bring everybody back together. I guess maybe like the gravity point. In a way, for all you Bleach fans out there, in a way, it's very similar to how Ishin Kurosaki thought of like Ichigo's mom and all that, where like she was the sun that they all rotated around because of like her spirit and how happy and like just how she was as a person. That's what Sami Zayn is to the bloodline. He is the sun in their like very dark world that they kind of live in. But sorry. So you had something that like you were curious about with all this
Yeah.
too.
So like one of the things that stood out to me, because I don't think they're just saying it just for the hell of it, because obviously things are
Hmm.
brought up for a reason. Um,
Yeah.
so they mentioned like a 5-on-5. And like we discussed, Solo was saying, "Oh yeah, Sammy's my 5." And I'll admit at first I did thought that Solo um was didn't really was alluding to 4, was
Hmm.
what he said 5. But I was like looking on the wiki page for Survivor Series, and I know that's not the best thing to look on, but it does
Yeah.
say to be determined, to be determined. So I'm not gonna really use that as a source. I'll just say it from the perspective of what we saw on the show.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like they are going to do a 5-on-5 War Games match, because that's just how the match has been mapped out ever since they brought War Games to the main roster. So it definitely
Hmm.
makes sense for them to head down that direction. So my
Yeah.
my question is like, who's going to be the 5th member? Because when it comes to Solo, you could probably say Hikuleo, because obviously
Hmm.
we know that he was signed, and he's also another Tongan that could be
Hmm.
slotted in there, no issues at all whatsoever, because I believe he's related to Tama Tonga and Tongaloa. That's another brother of
Hmm.
theirs. So you could easily slot him in there, no questions asked. I sort of was expecting that before we saw Sammy, where he was doing the countdown, and I thought Hikuleo was going to be behind Roman. But
Yeah.
that's my whole thought process on Solo's side. Other than that, I do not really know. That's a realistic option I can see, because we do know he is signed. We just don't
Hmm.
know when he's going to be slotted in. But when it comes to Roman's side, I don't know who that 5th person is going to be, because you got Roman Reigns, you
Yeah.
got Sami Zayn, you got Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso, you got the OG bloodline right there. You're not going to have Paul Heyman a part of fucking War Games. So it's like,
No.
who's going to be the 5th member on that team that really makes sense?
Yeah, because like you would think maybe Cody
Yeah.
because of like the tag team match, but like then when you think about it, okay, well he's kind of busy right now
Yeah.
with Randy and Kevin,
Which good.
and he had just gotten done with Gunther and all that,
Yeah.
and then I thought I'm just like I mean a stretch because he's all no. Uh, for some reason I was gonna say Seth Rollins, and then like other like Temu Bloodline could have Bronson Reed involved, but then I'm just like, I don't know if Rowan would actually trust
Oh
Seth,
yeah, especially
even though they're both
because then that's another
faces.
story you're gonna have to work
Yeah,
out too. Especially what happened
yeah,
at
exactly.
WrestleMania and all the history they have alone.
Hmm.
You see, I don't.
Yeah, and like so. I don't know why my brain started going to there. I guess because I want Seth on the card, which I mean, he'll be on the card.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. But yeah, it's really hard to even think about because it's like, and even if like, I mean, when you saw, sorry, this past week we did get some, announcements from like the whole WWE ID thing, but I don't think they're gonna be like, they're not gonna hotshot them to Survivor Series or anything. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't
So it's
think
like
so.
you can't really like expect any of them to get involved. So it's really tough
Yeah.
to think who would be involved on either side. I
Yeah.
mean,
Like if things were mapped out like months ago, I would say Zilla Fatu, but he has a long way to go.
yeah,
And he's more than likely going
yeah,
to be a part of the ID program, I would assume, because we have something being announced for Booker T's wrestling school on Sunday. And Booker T's
yeah,
really high on him, so I expect him to be part of that ID program. And that's just a program to see them train and then monitor them and structure them how they want. Otherwise, he would be the person. I'd be like, slot him into Roman's team. Makes perfect sense. But obviously, we're not doing that. So I don't really know. There's, like you said before, Cody makes sense, but at the same time, you're building a program with Cody and Kevin Owens now, especially with what we saw tonight, which we'll discuss. Because I would have said that, and obviously it wouldn't make sense to really do that because it's nice that they're separate now and have different things going on. So Cody's not always involved with the Bloodline. So I really don't know realistically that makes sense unless there's somebody that's in the back of my head.
Yeah, like I keep trying to think of somebody or anybody, but it's like who would see now?
I don't know.
Because I'm thinking about it, it's like,
I know they mentioned
would we add
I know they mentioned Lance, but they said Lance was injured currently, and he's not. He doesn't have any plans right now, so that one wouldn't make sense. And I expect Seth to be in like a one-on-one match with Bronson Reed.
And the only reason I keep going to that is just like, I mean, even if they do use Hikuleo for the, oh my gosh, my mind tonight for Solo's bloodline and all that, like, it's just tough, like.
Yeah,
because I keep seeing them using Bronson Reed as like a hired gun kind of thing, but it's just like, well, but then like Seth would have to get involved before it. That's just a mess. So I'm trying to get that out of my head because like I don't know who would team with Roman in this.
Yeah, I don't really know. Nobody really like with Solo's side. You could easily like you could say Hikuleo, but then someone else could show up because there's a whole bunch of them out there. So you don't really know who's going to be showing up next.
Yeah.
So at least with him, it's easy to. Yeah. So it's like at least for him, it's like easy to figure out when it comes to okay, who's Solo gonna add? Okay, I mean if it's either somebody that we know about that's like Hikuleo, or if it's like another an Hawaii member aligning with Solo, that's easy to like really break down and be like, okay, that's easier to figure out when it comes to who's gonna be added to Solo's team, but nobody really makes sense for Roman.
Yeah, because like I can't think of anybody at all.
Like there's a part of me saying maybe it was only said tonight, but it actually is a 4-on-4. But it's just based on what we've seen since the very beginning, and I don't really see them changing it up. Because for the men, because the men has always been like a 5-on-5, so I don't really know who could really work alongside Roman. Like if there is people that happen to stumble across this video after it's published or as we're watching, you want to chime in later if you're watching a little bit later.
Let us know in the comments.
Yeah. I really don't know
if you're watching. Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, we could sit here speculate all night, but we don't have all night. We have other things to talk about, so we're gonna move right along from this because again, we could be sitting here
think about that over
till
the
cows come home. Yeah, but yeah, let us know in the comments if you're watching this after the fact. Who do you think's gonna join Roman Reigns' side against the Temu Bloodline? So moving right along, we don't really have a WWE title picture right now, or at least. not really set in stone because like Cody, he doesn't have another challenger yet, and we really didn't get to hear from Cody today
No.
either. Instead, we had Randy Orton and Kevin Owens continuing what they started at Crown Jewel, where Randy Orton, he just storms to the ring like with a bunch of stank on him. Like they do like the whole one shot from him going from backstage to the ring and all that, and after commercial break comes in with a very raspy voice. So hopefully, Randy, you're
Yeah.
okay. I'm assuming
Hopefully.
they just wrote him off because he's not feeling good. I don't know. His voice was very raspy trying to talk tonight,
Yeah.
and he just gets straight to the point. KO, come out here. We're gonna has a fight, and they has a fight. Oh, they has a fight, which leads. This leads to KO hitting a pile driver on Randy Orton. Now, you hear that statement, and you're just like, "Oh, Watkins, that's just a wrestling move. AEW does those all the time. It's fine. It's okay." Here's the thing: the pile driver is a banned move in WWE.
Yeah.
Why? Well, because people have gotten severely injured from it, and KO. Like I want to say the last one that was hit that wasn't a tombstone, mind you. The last one that comes to mind, I forgot what year it was. I want to say 2011, but it might have been like 12 or 13. It was when Punk hit one on, I think it was Punk hit one on Cena, or Cena hit one on Punk. One of them hit the other with a pile driver. That's the
Mhm.
last time I can remember that being mentioned.
I honestly don't even remember the last time it was used.
Yeah, like, and they sold this like it was the end of the world, which, bravo, bravo. I mean, I've seen some stories lately, especially, I mean, I had mentioned AEW earlier. There was a story with Will Ospreay not wanting to do the Tiger Driver because it's a very dangerous move, which, yeah, it is a very dangerous move when you look at it. So it's like, we're playing on that aspect where it's like, Kevin Owens used this band move on Orton, and like it injured Orton so badly that he had to be stretchered out of the arena.
Yeah.
And I mean, Cody goes with him. So again, that's why like this is part of this segment here too, because like this is the only instance we see of Cody tonight,
Yeah.
just being by Randy Orton's side and all that. But I mean, if anybody's gonna protect Randy Orton for a pile driver, and if anybody's ever gonna do a pile driver in WWE, I'm glad it was Kevin because he did pretty well with keeping this move protected as he was doing it. I did notice that there, but how did you feel about like the return of the pile driver and just like the selling of this, not only just from Orton himself, but like from commentary too? Like they were putting this over like it was almost like Kevin Owens shot a dog or something on television. It was
I mean,
it
it's
was
it's almost
bad.
like they broke the fourth wall too when they mentioned that it was a
Hmm.
banned move. But it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's no perfect person to really execute a pile driver because Kevin Owens had a package pile driver as one of his finishers.
Hmm.
So obviously he has experience using that move, so he knows how to execute it properly, especially since he's been in the game for so long. So it makes sense why you would have somebody like that execute a move.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really like about it is that it adds shock value because that's not something you
Hmm.
normally see all the time on WWE television. Like you see frog splashes, you see super suplexes, you see those table spots where somebody like jumps from like the top rope of the ring and to land on the table outside. Like you see what these um you basically just see like a lot of these explosive moves all the time. But when you pull in a
Yeah.
pile driver like Michael Cole mentioned that, it's a banned move in WWE, kind of breaking the fourth wall a little bit because us as the fans, outside of the shows, when it comes to online reports that we've seen or just basically how the product has shifted over the years, they obviously
Hmm.
went away from these certain moves because, like Watkins said, they're dangerous. It could lead to neck injuries, stuff along the lines of that. It could definitely, it's kind of like a hit or miss. It's like you hit the move, you either do it successfully in a way to really put it over and make it feel effective, or you hit that mark where it's like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that, stuff like that. But the reason why I mentioned shock value is because it's not something you normally see. Just like how we saw blood in the match with CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, that's more shock value, because when is the last time, besides little cuts on the face and nosebleeds, or Becky's mouth or Becky's face covered in blood and stuff like that all those years ago, when is the last time you realistically saw two men pouring blood for like a 20+ minute match? When have you ever seen anything like that? I do remember a report coming out saying that blood will be a thing if it calls for it, which I like that statement, because when it pops out of nowhere, it feels more special than you see it where it's like, okay, he's doing a pile driver next week. Oh, he's doing a pile driver the next month or so. Stuff along the lines of that. So it's like, I like how it's added there, because the whole community, not just me and Watkins, but the whole community was like flipping out over this, because we know that this move is banned, and it just adds to the story as well. It feeds into what Triple H said about this being a different Kevin Owens, where this Kevin Owens is pretty much out for blood. He wants to kill Randy Orton. He wants to injure him and never see him again. Triple H gave those warnings, because we obviously know how Randy has been over the years. We know he's a legend killer, and he's done a lot of crazy things too, which I will bring up something a little bit later that Watkins might know what I'm referring to based on what we saw with this move. Maybe this leads to something else we see down the line, which I'll dive into. But basically, this is just feeding into a different Kevin Owens, which is nice to see, because this reminds me of the old black and gold Kevin Owens, where he's doing these apron power bombs and he's doing whatever the fuck he wants to pretty much deliver a message. And this is something that you need, because Kevin Owens is fantastic, great talent. I love seeing him on screen, especially this new direction of his character. It was needed, because I love babyface Kevin Owens. Obviously, Kevin Owens is over. Everybody loves him. But this different character change was nice to see from him. So them exploring this direction, hitting pile drivers, getting a little bit risky to add emotion to the story, to make it feel like, holy shit, we're heading down this direction.
Yeah.
And now you have Cody Rhodes, getting involved now, where he's with Orton as he's getting carried out to the stretcher. It adds on to that, because it's like, okay, now we got a built-in program with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. So now we know the direction that Cody's going to go down. That's why I wouldn't be surprised next week Cody calls out Kevin Owens. We get that build up to Survivor Series. And one of the things I was thinking on the top of my head is we obviously had Cody Rhodes come out there when Randy was getting carried to the stretcher. I don't know if this is hypothetically building into maybe Cody didn't make it there in time when Kevin Owens was doing all of this, and maybe Randy Orton has that thought in the back of his head where it's like, when I was out there getting attacked and I got that pile driver hit on me, you weren't there in time, and I had to get sent to the hospital, stuff along the lines of that. I don't know if that's going to be something that they're going to build into when it comes to that Randy Orton heel turn, because we know it's coming. We just don't know when it's coming, which is the best thing about it. But that's something that I was thinking about in the back of my head that could give us some sort of leeway when it comes to the whole heel turn that we eventually see when it comes to Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes. And another thing I do want to bring out here, because I don't expect, when Orton comes back, he's just going to do all of that to Cody, because obviously he has unfinished business with KO. Would be completely, it would be weird just to completely ignore that and just go after Cody Rhodes. But another thing I was thinking of, I'll mention it now, is since we saw that pile driver being brought back, are we going to see the punt kick being brought back as well when it comes to Randy Orton? Because we haven't seen Randy Orton do that in a long time. And if Kevin Owens wants to take off the gloves and deliver a pile driver to Randy Orton, I mean, Randy Orton has a deadly move that he's used for many years, especially if you saw that feud that he had with Triple H all those years ago, where he was using the punt kick, take out different parts of the family, when it came to like I think he did it to Vince, if I'm not mistaken. Might have did it to
I'm
Stephanie.
pretty sure he did. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like we saw Randy. He did this move all the time. This is a very common move for '09 Randy Orton, which is why a lot of people are mentioning '09 Randy Orton, because that old Randy Orton is pretty much like how KO is now, just
Yeah.
body
Okay,
after body.
I'm glad you're mentioning these two things because I wanted to bring them up too. Because like Kevin right now is pretty much mirroring a lot of Randy's career. And like, yeah, we are in that '09 phase where like he's kind of going crazy a little bit, a little mental and all that. And like now he's added a very dangerous, devastating move to his arsenal. Like I wouldn't. I don't. I'm not saying he should always bust it out because, like, for a time, Randy was busting that out like all the time with the punt kick. Again to show that he's crazy, he's mental now. But like, Kevin could go on a tear where like he starts injuring more and more people because he just keeps giving a power driver to them and all that. But like it fits Kevin Owens so well with his style as well because like he has his out of nowhere finisher with like the stunner and all that, and he has pop up power bomb, which is basically like a signature and all that. But like yeah, he has like the apron power bomb, but that's very situational because like
Yeah,
oh, I have to throw you out the ring, oh then I have to get you up for the power bomb and spin you around. Like at least with the pile driver, it's something that's in the ring that he could just bust out, just to add that extra layer of devastation. Almost again, very similar to the punt kick, where it's just like, okay, I've given John Cena like 2, 3 RKOs now. He's not staying down. Time for a punt kick to just end all this. Like things like that. So like I just really like it because again, like it fits Kevin's style of like that brutalizer of his. And again, like I want to commend the commentary team for just putting over how devastating this was. And even like Orton's, like you hear him heavy breathing, like almost like he can't breathe. And like you see his like hand just like stiff, stiff near his chest and all. Like he is selling the crap out of this.
yeah, I'm happy with
And
that.
I do want to throw this idea out there too, because like I'm also glad you brought up the idea of like, oh, Cody, you could have come out later or sooner. I mean, there were some news reports this week that came out being like, oh well, there's a possibility that Roman versus Rock might headline night 2, and
Yeah,
that night 1 is going to be all about Cody. And we keep saying, oh, Randy and Cody's feud, that's WrestleMania worthy.
yeah,
This moment right here could be a good way to write Orton off all the way till the Rumble. And I'm not saying, for Randy to win the Rumble, but he could at least be in there or like return at the Rumble. And then that's when we can get that line that you said, because that would tie in so well with, especially what Triple H said. Like, I'm trying to protect you from Kevin. And even what Randy said to Triple H, it's like it could end at any moment. Just give me Kevin Owens. And like that plays so well into that story because like if Cody had showed up sooner to help, then the pile driver wouldn't have happened. Randy's career wouldn't have been threatened. Like all this other stuff, like it would add so much more.
yeah.
And it just all kind of depends on how long they keep Randy Orton off of TV to fully sell the effects of this pile driver.
Yeah, exactly. That's
So it all, yeah, go.
what I was gonna say. That's why I feel like there's like that possibility if
Hmm.
we get the match at like WrestleMania, because if they are going to do the match, and if they
Yeah,
do want to focus on Rocket Roman, because we don't, nothing's like concrete. Just to put this
yeah,
out there,
yeah.
guys.
Those
Like,
are those are all rumors that we heard this
yeah,
week. So
because I know,
yeah,
the rumor that I've been hearing the most is like,
hmm,
especially Cody mentioned, like, oh, like what I'm gonna be doing in like WrestleMania is gonna be like one of the biggest things ever, which him and Randy Orton is
yeah,
big. But at the same time, when I hear that, I'm thinking, oh, is it gonna be a triple threat between you, Roman, and Rock? But at the same
yeah,
time, it's kind of like I kind of want that Rock and Roman thing to be special on its own, where it's just a one-on-one thing.
hmm,
kind of like if it was just you and Rock kind of one-on-one. I kind of want that to be special.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not against triple threats if it calls for it, but at the same time, it somewhat takes away the magic of like that first time feel when it
Hmm.
comes to those two being in the ring. But this could very well, I mean, build to a Randy Orton feud with Cody Rhodes down the line if they decide to head down that direction. Which, I mean, hey,
Yeah.
I'm happy I got to heel Kevin Owens and heel Randy Orton down the line, which is definitely needed. So I want to be against that. But it's
Hmm.
like I
Oh,
do like how like this is being structured, because it's like, okay, we're building into more of Cody and Randy's relationship now. We're building more
hmm.
into this new Kevin Owens right now, which I really do appreciate, because he does have a contract coming up towards the end of the year. Not saying that it
Yep.
factors into anything like this at all, because it doesn't. But just with that in mind, I'm hoping we just get more destructive spots like this every so often with Kevin Owens. Like, he doesn't have to hit
Hmm.
a pile driver every week, but just
Yeah.
seeing him do those sort of moves would be nice. I mean, I definitely expect him to do this on Cody, or at least attempt it on Cody
Hmm.
when they have that match at Survivor Series, which I would assume that's the plan for
Yeah.
Survivor Series when it comes to Cody, because obviously you're gonna have to sell the affection to Randy, which is why you wrote him off the TV to begin with. But it's like, I would assume you would see that again in the match at the very
Hmm.
least, at least like
You would
reference.
think.
Yeah,
Yeah, or at least like teased
yeah,
against Cody.
yeah. And then you would
So,
have Cody like break
yep.
out of it or something along the lines. I definitely expect to see it in the match. I will. I feel pretty confident in that. I
Hmm.
don't expect to see it like every week in a regular KO match, but I definitely
No.
expect to see it in that title match.
Yeah. Oh, same here. So, yeah, we'll have to see how Randy decides he wants to go about with the rest of his 2024 schedule, whether he's going to take the rest of the year off or if he's going to just be gone for a week, come back next week with even worse voice than he already had tonight and try to fight KO again. And hey, maybe he gets, thrown through the barricade and power bombed on the apron. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I guess, with that one. So we're gonna move right along. We got a bunch of mid card stories to talk about. We're gonna start, of course. We're gonna start with a couple of the women's segments because
Mm.
the the women they kind of blended together, just like with characters that were involved in all that. So we're gonna start here with our first match of the night, which was Bayley taking on Candice LeRae. Now, Candice, she was on top throughout the whole match. There was a little
Yeah,
bit of back and forth, but really, even through the picture in picture, I mean, Candice was pretty much on top. And
yeah.
this was a very competitive match. And the whole story, the whole crux of this is that, apparently back in the day, like back in like California or whatever, um, they had both were trying out for WWE, and they had scouted Bayley before Candice and all that stuff. So it's like, okay, we kind of toured a little bit
Hmm.
in the indie
Oh yeah,
scene,
that's
but
right. Because
Bayley
Bailey's
just kind
from
of,
San Jose, California. Okay. Yep.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like, okay, we both kind of were in the same scene together. Candice, you really helped me a lot, but like Bayley was the one that ended up getting pushed into WWE and pushed to be the role model and all that. So that's kind of the story here, and it's eventually leads to Candice LeRae trying to access her inner Eddie Guerrero by feigning an injury and going for a roll up to beat Bayley. Unfortunately, not the case, as Bayley, I guess, knew this was going to happen and then just pins Candice right there. And I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, it's just like, all right, cool, Bayley. Commentary kept saying, "Oh, Bayley needs a win. She needs to get back on track." So it's like, I get that.
I feel like she has.
However, yeah, she's been fine. Like, yeah, she's lost a couple matches here and there, but like, I don't feel like she's any further down the card than she was.
No,
Like,
I think she got a win
if
over
anything,
Candice too in that tag match.
she did. Like, yeah, she was the one that pinned Candice too. Like, so you already had that resolve, but I guess they have to rewrite history since Indy's not with the company anymore. That's the only thing I could think of. like, because they didn't even mention last week at all. Well, I think they did quickly, but like there wasn't much to talk about with it. They talked more about the match 3 weeks ago where Candice beat Bayley and all that. But
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Candice really should have won this. I thought, like, even if it was like with a cheeky roll up like that, at least on paper, it would have said Candice LeRae beat Bayley.
Yeah.
You know.
Um.
I don't know, man. I just wish Candice won this one.
Yeah, see, I'm on the same mindset because I wish she won this as well. Because one of the things I was hoping for, and it sucks that Indy got released, trust me, because when me and Watkins spoke about it last Friday when we were discussing SmackDown, towards the end of the show, we were talking about the releases and everything. Indy was the one that personally caught me off guard the most because that was the one I wasn't really expecting because I'm like, I'm not saying I get why it happened with the other two, because I don't want it to be like, oh, I get why it happened, like coming off as an ass, because that's not how I'm trying to say it. But it's like
it's realistic.
Yeah,
it's a realistic mindset with it.
But it's like when it comes to like Indy, that was one that really caught me off guard because like, okay, she's with Candice and everything, you know, she just came to the main roster last year, so it's like not everything came full circle to her right away. She hasn't really found her footing anywhere yet. So her being with Candice, since they did have the way before, it makes sense why they're paired together with one another, especially when you had that whole story being played out of Candice wanting to lead Indy into being a heel and everything. But it's like one of the things I was hoping for that I did bring up last week when it came to Candice is how they were going to build Candice moving forward without Indy Hartwell in the picture anymore. And I didn't know about this match until I saw it on the show, because I don't even think I remember seeing it online. But I saw Bayley and Candice LeRae. I was like, okay, is this going to be a way for us to, like, you know, build up Candice LeRae? Because like I said the first time when we originally discussed this, I like how at that point this was WWE trying to build new stars, you know, trying to build those contenders, especially with the mid-card title in the picture now. I thought this was going to be a way. It's like, okay, you know, we're going to build Candice LeRae to be one of those credible stars that you can lean into just in case somebody's sick or can't make it, something happens, whatever the case may be. I thought that was going to go on. And when it comes to the next match, I'll shed some thoughts on there because I feel like I have a good mindset where she's going now. But at the same time, you know, I kind of wish she won this match because I feel like it would just put her on a good track and it would allow her to pretty much like, okay, you know, I'm moving up a little bit, you know. I had my singles match with Bayley. It's not like it's a tag match. Like I had my singles match with Bayley. I got my win over here. Now I could progress from there and see what I can do with that.
Yeah.
That's what I was wanting out of this because I was honestly shocked that she got the win on Bayley all those weeks ago. So I thought we were going to get something like this again. But it's like, I get the whole thing where it's like they both know each other. Bayley saying how she looked up to her. That was the whole story. That they train together. Yeah. Bayley look up to her. They know their moves, etc. So on, especially when the fake injury took part into the match as well, where she was trying to fake an injury. And Bayley's like, I already know your tricks. And she pinned her like that. But I don't know. I feel like I said, I was just like really hoping Candice would have come out on top of this because it's like we said before, you know, we got that win before, let it play out, see where it goes. But now we're at the point where it's like loss after loss after loss. Where is this going to lead into?
Well, in a way, too, they kind of had a reset tonight, too, because like, again, you know, Indy's not here, so they can't play on the whole, Indy, you know, kept interfering for Candice, and they had the tag match last week and all that stuff. So, like, in a way, they kind of reset because, like, you know, leading into the other match, you know, she kind of finds new friends and new places and all that. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I see where she's going here. And that's the thing. Like, okay, I'm going to compare this. And this is more like what I'm about to talk about is more like on the booking aspect or like the booking mindset of this. But like, I look at this match and then I look at the match with like Seth and Bronson Reed from Crown Jewel. And so both of these matches are with, you know, with veterans of WWE, and like that's something against Bronson or Candice. It's just levels on the card and all that. So it's like you have them face off against these veterans, these newer names, these talent that like need to be built up into the new stars and all that, and both end up losing their matches. And the biggest difference, though, is like where Bronson Reed, I could be a little more forgiving because at least he looked very strong in the match. I mean, it took damn near like 3 different kind of stomps just to put him down, and he was still like he ended up still getting up where most people would have sold all of that. Whereas with Indy, she not Indies again, Indy Hartwell in the mind, where Candice, she kind of looked dumb here. Where like because that's the thing when you look at Bayley in the match, and at the moment where Candice was feigning the injury and all that, Bayley was not having it. She knew what was going to happen, and you could tell that just from her mannerisms and how she was acting before all of it. That's why, like, when she turned around, she didn't completely turn her back around. She was still kind of like half turned a bit. So like she knew Candice was coming, and like she was already like 2 steps ahead of her. So like in a way, it kind of makes Candice look dumb because it's like, okay, why are you trying this when like it's kind of obvious Bayley knows that? But again, you could probably chalk that up to like being in the moment and all that. But like it doesn't really help Candice. And I'm gonna use this kind of to transition to where this ended up leading to is Tiffy ends up confronting Candice because Candice is like walking backstage and all that, and they kind of start going back and forth a little bit with each other. But then like Nia comes in, she's mad at Tiffy for making the match, even though Tiffy just wants to take over WWE on the women's side. But like Candice, I guess, is trying to become another lackey for Nia.
Yeah,
because she kind of does this thing where it's just like, oh well, if I was there, Nia, you would have won the women's crown jewel title, and all this other bad stuff
probably
wouldn't
not
be
wrong
happening to
either.
you. She probably isn't wrong either. I mean, they probably could have won tonight if Tiffy kept her eye on the ball, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's where you were going with that part, but
that's
like,
where I was going because it's like I thought she needed the win in the previous match, but at least this tells me she's involved in something. So it's not like she lost to Bayley and it's like, okay, we'll see you next week or next 3 months. It's like at least we know that she has a direction of like this is what Candice LeRae is doing next. At least it's something that I can appreciate with. It's something I can appreciate, especially with the women's champion, like the main star of that women's division on there being Nia Jax at the moment. At least it tells me like, okay, she's actually being involved with the main champion of the show. So that gives me some hope that she's going to be relevant. And that will probably tie into the whole story with Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton when Nia Jax eventually drops Tiffany Stratton. You have that whole alliance between her and Candice LeRae, which would benefit Candice LeRae because at least she's involved in like the main event scene on the women's side of things when it comes to SmackDown with Nia Jax. So I can say I do appreciate that at least there's something going along with it. So I'll let it play out and see where it leads to. But when it comes to like this match itself, honestly, what I took out of it the most is what me and Watkins were talking about when it came to Candice LeRae. Because I feel like once she got involved here, that's when I started paying more attention to it, like I just went over a few seconds ago. And it's also just playing into the whole thing where it's like, Tiffany, when are you going to notice that, Nia Jax is just really fed up with your shit? You're always putting her into these situations where it's like, why are we involved in this situation to begin with? Because it's like, we could have won this match. We could have worked around things a little bit differently. So we didn't have to get into this big mess to begin with. Like, it's just telling me, it's like, I realize it's a story and it's being played off for a certain reason, but it's just looking at it from a different point of view. It's like, Tiffany, you gotta come to terms eventually that you gotta realize what she's doing, especially when it comes to the whole Candice LeRae
Yeah.
thing, because what Candice LeRae did within that match itself, like she said in the back, if she was there, you would have won at Crown Jewel. You would have won that, like we saw before when her and Nia
Yeah.
worked alongside each other. They won.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
because Candice isn't thinking about, cashing in the briefcase and all
Yeah.
that. She's more focused on, she's actually focused on being a lackey, And
Yeah.
notice how I'm saying lackey and not bodyguard. Take
Yeah.
notes, Raquel Rodriguez.
yeah. But it's like,
Like,
it was very apparent within the match itself where it's
Mhm.
like Candice helped to create a opening for Tiffany Stratton to hit the prettiest moonsault, which, I mean, there was an opening right there. You didn't have to go after Bianca again and do that
No.
double drop kick. You didn't have to do that and then set up your move. I mean, the move was already set up. She was already on the mat. You could have done your prettiest moonsault, hit it on her, and then get the 1, 2, 3 right there. So that's pretty much Candice LeRae showing Nia Jax that, okay, you know what? I created an opening for Tiffany. She didn't take it. She decided to do something different, and this is why it ended up leading to Bianca eventually getting the advantage and hitting the KOD on her for the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
you have another loss being thrown at you now because Tiffany decided to not follow up with the opening that Candice LeRae gave her. And obviously you have that whole thing where it's like, Tiffany's like, oh, we don't need your help, you don't need to do this or that. But it's like, looking at it in the moment, it's like you could have taken it, because right there it was the best way to hit the prettiest moonsault
It was
to get the 1,
it
2,
was
3
right
on that match.
there, girl.
And I saw it too, because that's what I was coming into. Because when I was watching it, I was like, hit your finisher. I mean, I get the whole setup, because she does what was that thing? Because the way that Tiffany normally sets it up, she does like Wasteland, like Wade Barrett used to do. Like she has a fireman's carry, and then she does a little roll up, which I believe it's Wasteland. I think that's how Wade Barrett did his move. Because I remember he had the person over. He did the fireman's carry, and then he did that roll. I think that was Wasteland.
It's not a rolling senton, is it?
I always thought.
I don't. Yeah.
But basically, like, well, you know what I'm talking about, like the whole setup she does.
Yeah.
She does like the fireman's carry, and then she does like that. Basically what I said, and then she does the prettiest moonsault.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I was just looking at that. I was like, come on, man. But it's like at the end of the day, I realize why they're doing it, because it's, again, adding more to the Tiffany and Nia split that I'm hoping gets shown off. Maybe I'm hoping we conclude that at Survivor Series. Do that angle there, or at the latest Saturday night main event if you want to wait that long. But I mean, pretty much.
Well, see, that's the other thing, because like I looked at the calendar real quick, because I was like, how far apart is Saturday night's main event compared to Survivor Series? There's only 2 weeks between the events.
Oh,
so like, I feel like we're gonna be getting like a lot of build that's gonna kind of boil over from Survivor Series, or like go through Survivor Series as well.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, we might see maybe a couple other injury angles I wouldn't be surprised with, or like, well, here's the other thing I want to pull out too, because like there was a lot of interference in this match with like, not only with like Jade and Bianca having their best friend Naomi with them to cover their back, but like again, Candice LeRae coming out and helping out Nia and Tiffy. There's also the possibility of this being part of the women's War Games match, because like there is a way for like Bianca, Jade, and Naomi to get somebody in Bayley, because she's involved with like the whole Candice thing, and then I'm sure Nia and them can find 2 other women. I'm sure that's not hard to even find. I mean, hell, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven are right there, if they're not going to be involved with the mid-card title by that point. So, like, there are possibilities for where things can go as well. I mean, I wouldn't be fully opposed to that, only because we got the tease like a year ago with Damian Priest cashing in during the War Games match. I want that to be a thing. Like, you teased it to me, Judgment Day. You teased it, and now I want it. So, like, why not just let Tiffany do that? Like, either before or during, mainly during. Like, during a match like that would be crazy.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's basically matchception at this point, where like there's a match within a match. But like, I want if Tiffany did that. I'm curious if that would change like the whole match to be like a just a free for all, like every woman for themselves. That would be crazy.
Theoretically, it probably would, because once she cashes that
Yeah.
in, it becomes a champion.
Oh shit! Wait, hold on. We might be cooking with something here. I don't know
But
what that meal's gonna be yet, but we'll have to let it simmer right now.
yeah,
But it's an idea though, because that's the thing. Like, there was a lot of interference in this match, and there's a lot of just like crossing lines here when it comes to like stories and rivalries going on and all that. So like, it wouldn't surprise me if this ends up being it, because that's the other thing too. Next week we have Naomi versus Nia for the title. You
Yeah.
know, like that's gonna lead to something, either like it just getting thrown out because of more interference, or like, because I mean, I don't see Naomi ultimately taking the title from Nia, but I don't know, there's just a feeling I have where it's just like, okay, something's gonna happen with that match where we're not gonna get a conclusive winner, and we'll have to get it like later on down the road.
yeah, something along the lines of that.
But, yeah. But you know what? The women showed out tonight. I will say that the women showed out tonight. They must have watched Tuesday night's show and thought, huh, we need to kind of do a little bit more of that, because like the women did really good tonight. Despite some booking choices and all that, like, everyone showed out, everyone did good, and I was quite pleased with what I saw. And speaking about being quite pleased, we're going to move on now to our next two stories that also kind of bleed into. See, this is what I love about modern WWE, where it's just like, yeah, there's many different stories going on, and like different people are involved in different ones, but like a lot of it kind of bleeds into one another and kind of flows really well. It makes your world feel more lived in. And that's when we get here with like basically our tag team division here. So we're going to start off with DIY versus Pretty Deadly. Again, another match much like Bayley and Candice.
Actually, we might have to.
Go ahead.
We might have to rephrase that. It's more like.
Oh yeah, it wasn't versus. It was.
It was more
versus.
More like Ciampa versus Pretty Deadly.
It was more like Ciampa letting out his aggression.
Oh, yeah.
And anger and frustration, like, because that's the thing. So backstage, we have Johnny Gargano. He goes up to Motor City Machine Guns and just glazing the hell out of him like he's some tribalistic fan of theirs. 19. Yeah. Like, oh, you're my favorite team. You're the best team ever. Senpai, don't notice me. You gotta notice me. Like, it was like, I don't want to say it was out of character, but it was very glazy. Like, it was like he was working at a Dunkin' Donuts at like 4 a.m, getting everything ready for the morning rush. Like, that's how much Johnny Gargano was like just fanboying about that. So they end up leaving. They're getting ready for their match later on, and Gargano comes up. Well, not Gargano. Ciampa comes up to Gargano, and it's just like, hey, what the hell was that? They're holding on to our property. We never get, like, and I'm glad Ciampa like mentioned this too. He's just like, we never got our rematch for the titles that were wrongfully taken from us.
No.
Like, those are ours. And good on Ciampa for being like that. Like, Ciampa's always been that character, just like he's always got that chip on his shoulder. He's always ready to like prove somebody wrong, and I was getting a lot of that just in this little segment here. And apparently they have a match with Pretty Deadly, which again wasn't a match because as Michael Cole was giving his little spiel about, I forgot what the ad was even for, because Corey Graves is like, Cole, you might want to stop your announcement. Ciampa's like beating up pretty deadly, like throwing them into the ring, throwing them onto like the steps and the tables and all. Like Gargano didn't even try to stop Ciampa. You just
No, you just let it
let him
happen.
do his thing. Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, buddy,
Which
you have
I
fun there.
which I honestly don't blame him, because you got to look at the losing streak that they've been on lately.
Not
They've
at
been
all.
losing pretty much every match that they've been a part of, besides the qualification
Yeah.
matches, of course. But if you're just looking at them from their let's say if you're looking at it from their tag team win and losing streak, they've been on a
Mhm.
hot losing streak for quite some time now. And you obviously can see from the body language alone from Tommaso Ciampa that he's getting frustrated, because obviously he doesn't want to be in that
Yeah.
position, especially with what we saw when they lost their match against the Motor City Machine Guns to qualify for the tag team titles, where he just
Mhm.
ended up just walking off. And then you also had
Yeah.
walking off with Johnny Gargano. And then you saw tonight how he just had all that frustration. It's like, what the fuck is this? Why are you acting like this? I mean, you gotta get your mind out of the gutter. You gotta really focus on the task at hand, like you mentioned. Never got the rematch back, so at least there's some logic thrown in there to build up the frustration that we're showing. And I
Mhm.
honestly am happy that they're heading down this direction, because
Me too.
we're more than likely going to be getting the Black Heart Tommaso Ciampa, which was pretty much, if people watch the Black and Gold days of NXT, I mean, that Ciampa was on another level. I mean, the way that I
Mhm.
guess the best way to put it is the way that you're seeing Kevin Owens now being all destructive and using pile
Yep.
drivers to take out Randy Orton. That's pretty much what you want to see from Tommaso Ciampa. Like, you want to see that Tommaso Ciampa that we saw in Black and Gold NXT days on the main roster, to really show people what he's capable of, because I feel like he definitely
Mhm.
needs it, especially if he wants to go, especially wants to get more over with the fans, especially as a heel, because it's definitely heading down that direction. But
Yeah.
what one of the things that I'm really happy that they're doing is I was gonna say, what one of the things I'm happy that they're doing is oh no, oh, now I know what I was gonna say.
Mhm.
So I realized there was some comments online saying, oh, why are they teasing a split up between DIY? Like, why is this a thing? Why is it going to happen? I'm going to come out and say this, and I'm going to be completely honest, because I love DIY. I think they work great together. I mean, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano tag team or a feud. They create magic. It's almost like you have that wrestling soulmate. You look at Cody Rhodes
Mhm.
and Roman Reigns, or you look at Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock. Just to throw that out, for example, when it comes to that generation of performers, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano are wrestling soulmates. But I
Mhm.
will say this, when it comes to the tag division, especially when you look at DIY currently and that tag division, they're not really doing anything special. Because
Yeah.
what are you really going to do at this point? You're going to have them gain momentum and then lose it, and then not really get those tag titles back or whatever. So I'm
Mhm.
honestly not against them breaking up. I understand there's some people out there saying that, oh, if you break them up, we're going to be losing another tag team division. I mean, honestly, just looking at how everything's unfolding, it kind of makes sense for them to break up. So they don't remain in that same position they are now, where people don't really care. If you break them up and
Yeah.
you create like a compelling story or just something in general for people to really get invested in, then you could actually make them matter on the show, where people want to tune in every single week to see what Tommaso Ciampa does next, because that's going to be the center focus when this whole entire thing comes out. Just like what you see
Oh
with
yeah.
KO, it's going to be a similar situation with Ciampa. What the hell is Ciampa going to do this week? Like, we just saw him take out Johnny Gargano backstage, and it was just this big brawl, and he was just beating the absolute shit out of him. And let's say they do add a little blood in there, and Johnny gets a little bloody in there, add that realistic feel to it. when they add that shock value every so often, that would actually make you want to tune in because you're like, holy shit, this is something different that we haven't seen on the main roster, because we've seen it in the old days, but we haven't really seen it migrate to the main roster. So I'm all for the split because they're not really doing anything in the tag division at this moment. So the direction that they're heading down right now, I'm not opposed to. I have nothing against it, and it makes sense for them to head down this direction because you want your audience to care about these performers. And if you're telling something like this, we're telling a story like this when it comes to him and Johnny Gargano, comes to the losing streak, the frustration, especially with what we saw. I might as well mention this now, unless you want to save it for later. When it comes to
Oh no, we can mention it now because it kind of transitions into this match coming up. So like later on, I mean, again, Ciampa's just like, he wants those tag titles back, and I mean, they do go up to Motor City Machine Guns later, and just like as soon as he's starting to kind of confront them and be like, "Hey, we want those titles." It's like, nah, get to the back of the line because the Street Profits are here. They just came from Nick Aldis's office, and they're challenging for the tag titles next week, against the Motor City Machine Guns. So they're already like ahead of DIY, which that match is going to be a banger. Like if anything, like if we got this match with like Grayson Waller and Austin Theory against Motor City Machine Guns, and it was that good. Like, just imagine what them and the Street Profits are going to do. Because, like, that's the thing. Like, and not to kind of, like, back and forth with all this, but it's like, first of all, it's this weird balance that we had with this match with Motor City Machine Guns and A-Town Down Under, where it's like, there were a lot of moments, too, where Motor City Machine Guns were kind of... they were kind of running circles around the team, around A-Town Down Under, like, and it's mainly to do with like just their teamwork and how they mobilize as a unit. Like, they are I'm sure everybody out there has heard this term, but they are just such a well-oiled machine together. Like, they know exactly what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it. Like, they're so in tune with each other. It's almost like fusion in a way. So like with the fusion dance and Dragon Ball, it's like, okay, you have to be a cohesive unit. You have to have like the same power level. You have to do like the same dance. You have to have like this choreography that like ultimately makes you and your partner become the ultimate being. It makes you become like Gotenks or Gogeta and all that. But like that's kind of what the Motor City Machine Guns bring. They bring this different level of tag team action that like kind of brings out the best of a tag team. I mean, we saw that with a couple weeks ago when they came onto the main roster. We saw that like when they faced off against the Bloodline that night when they won the tag titles, and we saw it again tonight with A-Town Down Under, where like they brought them to a really good match. It took like a misstep from one of the guys. I'm still getting used to their names, so I'm not gonna. I know the one guy's saving whatever. Anyways, like when he goes for a dive outside and like he kind of sells the knee a little bit, like he kind of landed a little funny on the knee. Like that's good storytelling because it's like, yeah, you guys were on top until like something happened in the match. That's realistic. That makes me think, okay, you actually are performing. Like you're making this feel like a real fight. And it's one of those little things that you just notice. It's like, it just adds so much to the match that you're watching and all that. And I mean, I'm just going to say it again. This was like probably one of Grayson Waller and Austin Theory's better tag team matches just because of who they were able to dance with. And like, there was a moment too, like out of these four guys, cause they are pretty quick guys, Grayson Waller of all people looked like the slow one around them. Like, put that into perspective because, like, he's not a slow guy. Like, he has some speed to him. But, like, to me, he was considered the slow one. Like, that's just bonkers to think about. But, like, again, like, so I say that, and, like, I can't wait for next week because then, like, we're getting them versus the Street Profits. And, I mean, the Street Profits, they're awesome. They're a great tag team. But imagine the performance that they're gonna put on next week
Oh yeah,
against Motor City Machine
and that's
Guns.
another thing. Like the fact that you brought up the Street Profits, we're also seems like we're seeing like a different character from them. Like I don't know if you saw
Mm-hmm.
online when it came to how they're displaying their emotion when it comes to their
Yeah.
position in the company. I'm not sure if this is kayfabe or if it's a realistic feeling that they're doing, which is also
Mm-hmm.
something that makes the program interesting. You can't really tell if it's legitimate or not. But
Yeah.
it sort of seemed like we saw that with them, like we saw after the commercial when we saw Ciampa backstage confronting them, which he has every right to act that way. I'm all for this
Yes.
new champ to begin with because this is honestly how Ciampa should be displayed on the main roster to begin with. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
it definitely seems like we're getting like a more serious Street Profits, especially when you wear the black too, because
Oh yeah.
that sort of like shows a sign where it's like, okay, this is like a serious Street Profits. Like they really want to get in the groove again. They really want to show what they're
Mm-hmm.
capable of. They don't want to be at the bottom of the card. Like they want to be at the top of the tag division. And like the Most Hidden Machine Guns put them over, saying that they're a great tag team. You would expect that out of them. So I'm hoping this leads them into a different direction, and I'm all
Mm-hmm.
for it because I feel like they definitely need it. And I wouldn't be
Oh yeah.
surprised if Champa does get involved here because this definitely could be working. This could definitely fit well with like telling two ongoing stories when it comes to how Champa wants to see himself presented, just like how the Street Profits
Yeah.
want to see themselves presented, and then you like start a little feud with them, and then maybe the result of it is where Champa breaks out, attacks Johnny, does whatever, attacks all three of them, wherever the
Mm-hmm.
case may be. I mean, I feel like it just benefits them in the long run if they decide to head down this direction because we're definitely at the point where we need to shake things up a little bit and try to see if we could um change a couple of these guys up a little bit so they could move up the
Yeah.
ladder a little bit more so they're not the same all the time. Especially like when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the point where it's like they're not as hot as they were before, where they're kind of just there. If you want to make them the topic of conversation where you have people on X talking about okay, what's gonna be happening next with Champa or the Street Profits, I mean this is definitely
Yeah.
a good way to do it.
Oh yeah, especially with like, because I think Montez Ford was like the main one on social
Yeah,
media, like
definitely
posting
him.
stuff, being like, "Oh, we're gonna remind people who we really are" and all that. So it's like, okay, is this a work? Is this a shoot? Like, what's going on? Like, how what story are we telling? And I mean, if we're gonna if this is all gonna just kind of lead into a triple threat, God save the Queen if we get a triple threat with these tag teams. I mean, that has potential to just blow the roof off of any spectrum that you're on when it comes to like watching this awesome product. Because like that's the thing. It's like the product is getting enhanced greatly in any aspect that you get because like you're getting a lot of characters now who like yeah they still want to be their characters and all that like take the New Day for example. Like they still want to have fun and all that stuff, but it's like Xavier Woods is also now starting to feel frustrated. It's like, okay, I want to like actually start winning. Like we were on a certain level, we need to get back on top of that level. And then
Yeah.
you have Champa, who's like, oh, like pretty much the same mindset. We need to get on that level that we can be. Street Profits, the same thing. And like even some of like the individual stars, like I mean, again, I had mentioned like the whole Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, Bayley, Candice thing. Same thing. They want to make a name for themselves. They want to like be more than what they are currently and be just as great as they know that they can be. And like the great part is, even though like from a bare bones, like just on paper, those what these stories are, each one of them is like different in its own right, and it adds something to like not only themselves as a characters and as individuals, but like as the product as a whole. Because yeah, everybody should want to do better. Everyone should want to be better and like
Mm.
elevate each other and learn from each other. And like that's why again, like I just keep going back to this match. Like this match in particular, I thought was really good. Like
Mm.
if I had to choose a match of the night, this would be it. Hands down. Like again, just the way Motor City Machine Guns move in a ring, just their whole ring awareness and how like they're able to lead these other teams into these matches. Because like even Grayson Waller at one point, like he did like his usual like jump in the ring flatliner kind of thing. That still didn't work. There was a double team move where it was like a drop kick into a flatliner. That still didn't work. And like I don't know, man. I was just really impressed tonight. And I mean,
Yeah.
even if Grayson, not if, but even when Grayson Waller and Austin Theory do break up, like this is at least one match I could probably remember of theirs going down. Like again, it was just I just thought it was really good.
Oh yeah,
You know, I
definitely.
love tag team wrestling,
Same. I'm happy it's
but
getting back on track slowly.
slowly but surely. Hopefully, maybe they could do something with the Raw side,
Yeah, I'm hoping
which.
once you have the War Raiders thrown into the mix, you throw the titles on
Mhm,
them. I'm hoping once we have that all set in stone, we can try to work with something there. That's why I'm waiting. Once they get those
hopefully.
titles applied onto them, we could start elevating things.
Yeah. Which are we getting that Monday? That's Monday, right?
I believe so because they did bring it up. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping they do
So
would get the win because it only makes sense. You're taking it off the
I hope
Bloodline
so.
on SmackDown. I mean, take it off of the Judgment Day on Raw. It only makes sense if you want to actually um reset the tag division and actually have it
Mm-hmm.
matter. I mean, having two new teams makes the perfect sense because they would actually elevate the title
Yeah.
and do something with it instead of using it as a prop.
Yeah, exactly. Because titles are meant to be defended and fought for, not just to hold over your shoulder. But hey, you know what? That was SmackDown. Again, I thought this has a strong contendership to being SmackDown of the year. It was just really good from top to bottom. From like again the bloodline stuff, from the announcement about the women's U.S. title match, eventual match,
Yeah.
the whole Randy Orton Kevin Owens stuff, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, most of the Machine Guns putting on a banger, the women having some great time to like excel their characters and put in some good work. And of course, the whole DIY stuff was just phenomenal writing as well. Like again, just there was a lot of moments tonight watching the show. I didn't have much to say. Like I couldn't think of words to say at the time of like just experiencing all of this again. Like I don't think we fully deserve somebody like Sami Zayn because he is just the work he puts in is really just really good and just
Oh yeah.
really makes you believe him once you get behind him. But like everybody too is just like stepping up their game. But Drop, what do you think of the show overall tonight?
Um, I thought it was a great SmackDown. Honestly, like I said, a lot of good stories being thrown in here, especially when it comes to the Bloodline. I mean, that's no surprise
Mm,
there. You're obviously always going to be get the center focus on that. You're going to be getting a lot of things to dive into and talk about, just like how we do in our weekly coverage when it comes to these shows. I really loved how things went on with the whole Randy Orton KO situation. That definitely added a lot more. Hoping we get back on track with the tag division because definitely with the Motor City Machine Guns with the titles, you could definitely head down that direction. Really excited to see where things
mm.
go with Ciampa. And one other thing I do want to throw in there that I forgot to mention when we talked about the Bloodline earlier is that I'm actually happy that they allowed Jacob Fatu to actually cut his first promo.
That's right. How did we not talk about that? Oh, he was so good, dude. He was the perfect. Okay, again, balance. He was a good balance of being intimidating, but also kind of having like a certain charm to him too. Because like, man, it was just really good. It was really good. I was impressed. I was really happy with it. As you could tell, like being a
Oh,
Jacob
yeah.
Fatu fan, like yes, let him talk up just a little bit more. Like, because that's the thing. He said enough. He said enough, and that was it. And just the whole time, just praying, just praising his tribal chief, loving his tribal chief, as everybody should, I guess. Apparently, who knows? Maybe I don't know. I don't love you, Solo. I don't like you. Boo you. You're not my tribal chief. Oh man. But all right, any other words for SmackDown then?
No, that's it.
All right. Well, hey everybody, that was basically the show. As we wind down, as we quiet down, normally we have Vash doing this because I'm somebody who forgets a lot. I don't know where things are. I don't know how to do things, but maybe drop maybe you can help me this week figuring this out. Where can I go if I want to talk to like you, or if I want to talk to Vash and try to tell him, hey, where are your keys at, buddy? Try to help him find his keys.
Yeah,
Where
hopefully you did
where
find them.
can where I hope so, Vash. Let us know in the comments if you found your keys or not. If you got this far in the video. But like, where can I go to kind of like talk to him, or like you or me or any of the other team? Where can I go to like talk to us?
So if
to
you
hopefully
guys
find Vash's keys.
So if you guys want to keep in contact with us, so it's not always YouTube being the outlet to really connect with us in any sort of way, be sure to check us out on our Instagram, because we have that. Haven't really been super active on that. We'll get to that, because time will tell what we want to do with that. We don't really have a whole plan structured for that.
Yeah.
But obviously we have the Twitter, very active on that. We normally talk on the shows, give our overall thoughts, promote things, etc., so on. We also have our Discord server, which I think the link is in the description. I'm not entirely sure. You could always click on that.
Link.
Yeah, I haven't either. But if it is there, you could always click on that. Maybe you want to hop in the VC, talk about some wrestling, interact with us during the shows, give your thoughts just like we do as the show's going on. You can do that. And also another thing to remember on X is to also use the hashtag Weebs of the Ring, because that way you connect with us when it comes to you guys want to reach out to us or see our posts, whatever the case may be. That is always the best thing to use if you want to reach out to us in any sort of way.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Drop. Now I know exactly what to do. And as I'm thanking you, I'm also going to thank everybody out there in the audience for taking time out of your day to listen to the Weebs of the Ring podcast. Don't worry, ASMR Watkins is not here. I might just leave him for a Monday night kind of thing. Who knows? Maybe he'll make another appearance, but that's neither here nor there. If you enjoyed what we had to say, why not do exactly what Drop just told you to do? All the links are down in the description below. We would love to talk to you guys, especially if you have any feedback for us about making the show even better, excelling our game, just like how we want our superstars to excel their game. So as always, Weebs of the Ring is presented by Animal Wii Studios. Thanks as always for our production team for all the hard work you guys do. And again, thank you for joining us. And remember, no stunt grannies were harmed in the recording of this podcast. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good one, guys, and we will see you on Monday for our coverage on Monday Night Raw. So we'll see you guys next time.